Well, greetings. It's time for another little Rick video. Just got back from morning practice. Good job this morning, ladies. So I have, six things that popped into my head this morning. I'm gonna do a very quick little fall review. Talk about the team dynamics. Talk about team goals, winter training. Evaluation and selection, give you an idea of what that means and how I do that, and conclude with just like the next 2 weeks or so of practice and what we're trying to do. But let's first talk about the fall. Now, for the varsity, it was a big shift in the fall where I just wanted you all to start to learn how to scull and to work on general aerobic development. That's all I wanted. It's kind of a low-key fall, which is a big shift from the past. And I wanted us to peak or to have a maximum performance at the Frostbite Regatta. And for the freshman novice, it was an opportunity for most of you to start a new sport, to learn the basic fundamentals of rowing. And for those of you that had rowing experience, I transitioned from high school rowing and taking a bit of a break, getting to know your teammates, helping your teammates learn to row. And I will say this to the freshmen with rowing experience: you did a fantastic job with that. You all were very patient and very supportive of your teammates, and I commend you on that. So as far as what I wanted to see from the fall, I think we achieved all of the goals that I hoped that we were going to achieve. So congratulations to all of you, and congratulations to my assistant coaches for doing a great job. So fall review is now behind us. Number 2, team dynamics. Starting off, it was a very a difference between varsity and freshmen, all right? A very distinctive difference between the two, but now they're moving closer together. So from this point through winter training up to spring break, the teams will now merge together, where there's going to be a men's team and a women's team. There's no varsity, there's no freshmen. Men's team, women's team. Coxswains, you're going to move around from all the programs so that you have an opportunity to work with experienced rowers, with men and with the women's program. So I want you to think now of a women's team and a men's team, and I'll try and schedule the men's team and the women's team separately as much as I can, except on Saturdays when it's an all-team practice, which I think is fun. So I want you all to put that in the back of your head now that we are one team and we're training with a women's team and a men's team. No more novice and varsity right now. Team goals, okay? We are a Dad Vale school. We are training for the Dad Vale Championships. That's our peak performance. Just like the Frostbite, the Dad Vales is our peak performance. What events we're going to be focusing on is yet to be determined. It depends on the quality of athletes that I have, and that takes time for me to determine what is our emphasis going to be on. And usually by the end of spring break, I start having a good idea where we might be focusing on a varsity 4 and a JV 4 in a pair, or a varsity 4 and a novice 4, okay? So or all three. I have to see how many athletes I have. I have to see your commitment level and your ability to move boats, and I can't do that now. So during the next couple of months of winter training is when I evaluate the team. Going into spring break is when I determine what is our emphasis going to be for the Dad Vales, okay? But for right now, you're just going to be training, getting in shape, and learning how to row. But the team goal is the Dad Vales. Winter training, okay? Well, winter training is really started. And if you wait until you get back from winter break to start training, you're already behind, okay? So it is extremely important that when you go home after your final exams, and I know this is a very stressful time of the year, but when you go home, that you have a gym, or you know exactly how and where you're going to be training. I will give you a training program to follow. You could follow that. You could use it as a guide. You could do what you want to do, or you could work with me or your other coaches independently if you want. But when you go home, you must train 6 days a week, okay? If you go home and take 2 weeks off, you're already far behind the competition, all right? So winter training starts now. Now, I completely understand in a few weeks, you know, you have your final exams. Most of you will not be doing any training whatsoever. I totally get it. But when you go home, there's no weeks of transition. You must get right into your training. It's extremely important. Now, when you get back, we start our winter training program as a team. And from the first day back up until spring break, as a team, you will be scheduled Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay, that is going to be your scheduled team practices. Tuesday and Thursday is independent training. Now, on a Tuesday, Thursday, if you want to meet me in the swingulator room, not a problem. I'd be all over that. If you want me to, or any of the coaches, you want some help in the weight room with your squat technique, right, or your deadlift technique, or for me to explain exactly what the lifting program is, I could certainly do that. That's not a problem. Just let me know. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday are scheduled team practices. Morning, afternoon, it depends on your schedule and availability, okay? I try to avoid scheduling athletes 2 or 3 times a week in the morning. I know it's difficult, but if I have to, I have to, okay? So I try to break up the schedules as much as possible. So there is no set schedule. It all depends on your availability. What type of training do we do over winter training? You're going to erg, swingulate, lift, and stretch. You know, I am finding that over the years, decades of coaching, I'm actually noticing that the athletes are becoming less and less flexible, and I find that fascinating. And it's concerning, actually. You know, I see some of you, and you really cannot touch your toes. You know, I'm over 60 years old, and I can put my hands flat on the ground. Okay, so it's like we need to work on flexibility. That's something that we need to do after practice more so than before practice, and that's something that you could do independently every single day. You can improve flexibility in 6 weeks. You know, you really can improve aerobic capacity in 6 weeks, but you can improve flexibility. So stretching is certainly now on the docket of things that we need to do because it's getting worse. And why is flexibility important? It's because when you're going to the catch, okay, if you're tense, if you have to force yourself into the catch, you're not able to row. You can't put power, you don't have any control, you can't set the boat. So we have to work on flexibility. So that's winter training, okay, the general gist. Now I'm gonna give you a lot more detail on winter training, but for right now, the general idea is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Saturday's practice is usually at 10, that's when the gym opens. Depending on the size of our team, I may have to have 2 practices, one after the other, but I like to try to have one giant team practice, which is always fun. The theme for winter training is technique, right? Learn how to row, learn how to row better. Aerobic capacity. You're going to be doing general strength training in the weight room, but you're also going to be doing specific power training on the ergs. Okay, but again, I'll get into more detail about winter training. Evaluation and selection. How do I select the crews going forward, okay, for the Dad Gals? Well, commitment is the first, okay? You look at your schedule and you got a lot of no's, right? That you can't come to practice. That's the first thing I look at. Now, I know that, your academics obviously is important. I get it. You didn't come here to row. I completely understand, okay? But when you're into the spring season, rowing has got to be important if you want to be in the top crews. Now, I'm not talking about family and I'm not talking about academics, okay? That's family and academics come first. But what's third? Third has got to be rowing, okay? It can't be your frat sortie. It can't be the 11, clubs that you're involved in. Those things, it's like, and if there are other things that you want to do, I completely get it. I completely respect that. Don't worry about it. If it's like, Rick, I just want to row part-time. I just want to be on the team. I want to work out. That's awesome. I embrace that. Okay. I look forward to seeing all of you. But there are some of you that are here and you want to be Dadville champions, right? You want to be part of a fast collegiate four. Like, you want to win. Okay. And if that's the situation, well, then you have to be committed. You have to be committed. You've got to come to practice, right? You can't go home on the weekends and do your laundry, okay? Now, I got to be honest with you. Your parents don't miss you. They love you, but they don't miss you, okay? So you can't go home on the weekends and do your laundry. You can't miss 3 practices a week and expect to be selected for the top crews. It's just not going to work, okay? So your commitment is number one. It is. It has to be, all right? Second is fitness. Fitness, okay? And fitness, how do I evaluate fitness? Well, I walk around and I look at the ERG scores while you're training, okay? I look what your splits are on the swinging ladder. I look what your splits are on the ERG, okay? And I watch. But a true evaluation of fitness is the ERG test. And we do a 2K and we do a max power, okay? Both are very, very important. A 2K and a max power. And I take these scores and I weight adjust them, all right? And then I use that to help me evaluate who was first and second and third and fourth, okay? The third thing is your technique. How well do you row as an individual, and how well do you row with your teammates, okay? Because remember, in rowing, we have to row together. But if you're that guy in the boat that's doing this, I don't care how strong you are, right? I don't care how committed you are. If you're not rowing with the crew, if you're in a 4, there we go, and here's the 4 rowing, and you're this guy, right? It's not going to work, okay? We have to move together. And the technique has got to be together and identical, all right? If, for example, if you think that the beginning of the stroke, the catch, is where all the power should be, right? And someone else thinks that all the power should be at the finish, we have problems, okay? We all have to have the same identical idea of how do we apply power and how do we move the boat and how well we do that together, okay? So selection for crews going forward, okay? Commitment, are you coming to practice? It's really that simple. Fitness, and I evaluate that at practice as well as 2K ERG testing and max power testing. And technique, how well do you row? Now, how often are we going to be doing ERG tests? Not very often at all, okay? We're going to do one before you go home, and I expect nothing. I expect, all I want is a benchmark, okay? But when you come back, we'll have very specific target goals that you're going to work towards, and I'll probably ERG test you 2-3 times at the most, okay? The next 2 weeks or so, I just want you to learn what winter training is like, the flow of winter training, how we set things up, how we break things down, how we move from group to group, getting used to the bikes, the erging, and the swingulating, just getting an idea how winter training works. Before we go home, I want you all to do a max power test and a 2K test. If the goal for the 2K should be a good piece, the to finish the piece, to be nice and consistent, and not to fly up and down with your splits. And we'll talk about that at practice. The max power test, I want you to get a feel of where you are, how much power can you put on that oar handle. And we're going to work on that actually all during winter training. So there you go. Fall review, we did great. Team dynamics, we are now one men's team, one women's team, one program. Team goals, we're training for the Dad Vails. What events? I don't know yet. I don't know who's on the team, and I won't know that until we go to spring break, okay? And then I will have very clear goals. This is our emphasis. These are our priorities, okay? Winter training starts now. When you go home and for a winter break, you must practice. You must train the first day. I'll take one day off. The following day, 6 days a week, I will give you your train program. Once we get back, real winter training starts Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Saturday are scheduled practices, AM and PM as needed. It's during that time when I'll start putting people in pairs, selecting pairs, my first pair, second pair, third pair, and so forth. So winter training is extremely important. Training-wise at winter training, you're going to be erging, swinging, biking, and lifting weights. Evaluation is commitment, is your fitness level measured in a 2K and max power test, technique, okay? And the next 2 weeks or so, it's just getting the flow of winter training. So that's all I got. That's what's rattling inside my brain this morning. Any questions, please reach out, and I will see you all at practice. Take care.